I hope you enjoyed so far. As Alexander so kindly introduced me, I am Marko. I do trainings for about over 10 years or so. I help people live a happy life, live a life free of fears, of limitations. Recently, I've started working with professors, high school students, elementary students, helping them to learn better. I have been speaking for the better part of my professional life, so I should be good at it, right? When they told me I'm going to speak at TED, I had, oh no. There's one limitation I have, and that's time. Less than 20 minutes for a TED Talk. Usually when they invite me to speak on a conference, I'm the last. Why? Because they know. So, it was a kind of a challenge. Tried to go around it and do something, and I decided, okay, let's speak a little bit less, and let's do some music. Since, you know, if you don't really you should all know the song. Most of you probably have been teenagers or so. Some of you have been younger, depending. Feel free to join in if you like to. It will wake us up. It will make us feel better now. So let's see where we get. I'll have even less minutes to talk afterwards. Go and close the curtains, 'cause all we need is candlelight, you and me, and a bottle of wine, the whole universe. Now we know I'm going away. Oh, how I wish it were so. Take this wine and drink with me. So let's delay on. I'll be gone safe tonight, and fight the break of dawn. Come tomorrow, tomorrow I'll be gone. There's a log on the fire, and it burns like me for you. Tomorrow comes with one desire, to take me away. Now we know I'm going away. Oh, how I wish it weren't so. So take this wine and drink with me. So let's delay our misery. Save tonight, fight the break of dawn. Come tomorrow, tomorrow I'll be gone. Save tonight, tomorrow I'll be gone. There's a log on a fire, and it burns like me for you. Tomorrow might come with one desire, to take me away. Save tonight, and then fight the break up. Thank you. So, as some of you who had any musical background noticed, I'm not really a musician. I never went to school. I never learned to play. I have some groove, but that's natural. And I had a lot of people we mentioned here today a number of times explaining me that I don't have a beat, I don't know how to sing, and I'm not musical. Unfortunately, those were the people in charge of teaching me how to do music. Let's see, where can we go? So, this is me. About 30-something little years ago, I was about to enter sort of a school play or something. We had, was it the 21st of May or something like that? We had a show in school. And they decided to take kids from the earliest classes of elementary school, like 3rd grade, 4th grade, and so on, who shouldn't really be too musical, but they should be good enough to be learned a song. And they selected a number of us. Kind of, sort of the cutest kids. I don't know what was the criteria because we didn't play anything. Me and my 2 best friends, the 3 of us, were also there. We were supposed to be the rhythm section. I was the percussionist. I had a triangle and a dangling thing. I was really good at banging the stuff. Not really in beat, but okay. It took the professor and the guy who was dirigating us about 10 minutes to kindly ask us to leave. Do you think a 4-year-old or a 4th grader, what you should have like 10 years, 11 years of age? How do you think we took it? They explained it to us. You're not musical, you just don't have the beat. Hell yeah, your heart is in a beat. It would be really magical if you didn't have a beat. So, well, we took it as we could. Left, convinced that our professors were right. We don't have a beat. But okay, let's go further. And a few years later on, I was going from the 6th grade to the 7th, and the school was setting up an orchestra. You remember the flutes, the orange block flutes you all played in elementary school, or most of you? We kind of did also, and I was constantly having sort of like a English C, or in our grade system like Troika, something like that. 6th grade, 7th. You shouldn't fail music, they told me. Yeah, so I entered, I had a will. My father is a very musical person. He loves music, he's an audiophile, so I grew up with music. So I wanted to play. And I entered the sort of a school band or so. Again, I ended up as a percussionist. This time I got a melody percussion, this sort of thing you play with a hit song and has its own tone. I don't know what's the name, vibrato something. Xylophone in Serbian, yeah, I don't know how they call it in English. It took them this time a little longer. I was there for like 2 rehearsals or so, and they kindly asked me to leave. Okay. I didn't stop. I got my parents to buy me a guitar. I got a small, very cheap guitar. I started practicing. Practiced good enough. I had 2 friends who were sort of, one had a very good will to be a bass player. The other one was banging the chairs and tables, very nice. So he was the drummer. And we had a band. We were like a 7th grade or so, 7th, 8th grade. It culminated with us taking the musical instruments from the band on our graduation party about 2 a.m. or so, and decided that we will play now. For our amazement, the audience was actually quite on track with us. They liked it. So the band of our classmates gathered up, and we were so proud, and then the professor of physics came in and shut down the mics and told us that it's not in the program and we don't really play that well, and we should, again, once more, be kindly asked to leave. It didn't stop there, but I had my family who encouraged me, as many people today said, it's an important education factor. I had a girl who asked me to sing her a song. So that's probably one of the best factors or motivation things I had. So I continued to play, and as you noticed, it's not a complicated song. It has like 3 chords. But I do have some groove, you agree. But they did kick me out. The second thing I always wanted to do is be a scientist. And Nikola Tesla, as all of us know, was, one of the greatest ever. This is his lab on the outskirts of New York, just right outside of Manhattan. And in those days, and remember this is like 150 years ago, this was not a regular building. So one day, and not to mention that the top of the building used to char lightnings into the open space every now and then when Nikola was not feeling really right. So, and one day the mayor of New York in that time and his deputy came in to meet the scientist. There's a crazy scientist in the lab just outside of our jurisdiction, and let's go and meet him. Let's see, can we do some business? Can we do something? And they went on his door and they knocked. When they opened the door, both of them were hanging those like light torches, you know them, the oil lamps you have. that you carry around. I don't know, how do they call them in English, like lanterns or so. And they knocked on the Tesla's door, and Tesla opened. First, it was a shock since he was a big man. He was like over 2 meters tall. The second shock was that in one hand, there was a ball of lightning, just standing there.
Without oil. Without oil.
Yeah, without oil. And there was a glass sort of pipe on his shoulder, not connected to anything, glowing, blue light. Today we know it as fluorescent lights that we used. Nikola knew it about 150 years ago. And they were amazed, like me. And they explained me in my elementary and then later on in my high school that you should know math and physics and formulas and calculate very well to be a scientist. And I knew none of those things. So they really clearly explained me, you're not for scientists. Go do something else. Be a, I don't know, sociologist or something. Or maybe a dropout like Nikola. And they convinced me out of my will for science also. So today, yeah, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a musician. But I have some groove. And every now and then in my kitchen, I do a science experiment. And I'm amazed that physics work. If you heat air in a balloon, it goes up. Kids look at it as magic, so did I. But where did all the problems start? What's the current condition I had? In school. There, when they had to inspire me, back me up, teach me things, they constantly educated me in one thing. You're not really good enough. Why? You make mistakes. Imagine your parents telling you somewhere between the age of month 1 and month 7 that you should not really walk. You fall all the time, man. Get a bike. It's not for you. And we go through that education ending up with the same conclusion. Today, unfortunately for many pupils, school is just the price to pay to be with friends. I have to sit there, be bored, be annoyed, be frustrated, but then the holiday comes in or the mid-break comes in and we go out and we talk and we meet some girls or meet some boys and hang around with friends. Many students during those years and many people today told us this or initiated this discussion, so let's continue now with it and go on into tomorrow. They sit long periods of time staring at their textbooks, reading them over and over, studying and realizing that not much of that is retained, it's not learned. And they become frustrated and they lose their motivation and they become bad students. Wouldn't you? They study for hours and then the tests come and I blank out. You remember those tones, you have them in your voice. I know this, just give me a second. And you become frustrated. You sit through countless hours of lectures, of exercises, without no idea, why is this guy discussing this topic? And what the hell does it have to do with my life? I went to an astronomy class. I was amazed looking at the planets first class. And on the second class, we didn't have any pictures. Guy put up a blackboard and started teaching us physics formulas. Most of the class left, since in some countries in universities, you actually have a choice. You enroll in a class, you be there for a week or so. And if you don't like the professor or something else, you enroll out because you don't like it. Amazed. So they do all of these things and become frustrated, demotivated, and they hate school. Eventually, or on the other hand, at your hobbies, stuff you love doing, arts, you're constantly coached, mentored, taught how to be better. Not told that you should be better and that you're not good enough, but how to be better. If your free play in basketball is not good, coaches will coach you how to do it better, how to learn. If you don't run well and you're an athletics guy, they will coach you how to do it better. Not just tell you, man, you're not really balanced and you don't run really well and you should be really faster, but I don't know how, but that's not really my job. They pay me to criticize. Remember your work from high school. When you got your math exam back, what was on the paper? What was marked out? All the things you did wrong. And how you did it wrong, and why is it wrong. But there was nowhere a mark saying, excellent, this is very nice solution, very creative, you should do this again. No, there's usually a check mark or something like that. Like, this is okay, nothing much. On the other hand, the second question sucks on so many levels, and let me explain you why, because I have 10 years of university education and a doctoral degree to tell you how you're not doing the things right. But not really to tell me how to do things better. And after some time, school gets frustrating, you get behind, you're made to feel stupid, told you have a learning disability, you're hyperactive, you should really calm down and then read the textbooks and stuff like that. The pressure increases from class to class, from year to year, and you don't know how to improve. On the other hand, they build your self-esteem in sports, in hobbies, in arts, in music. They encourage you to get better. They teach you how to do it. The pressure gets higher, of course, from day to day, from competition, from a performance to performance, it gets higher. But my instructions are clear. How should I be better? So it gets easier. And after some time, school just gets boring and this becomes a magical world of sports and extreme sports. And you should be right about teen years, somewhere here, 17 or 18, and somebody will explain you that you're not really for school. You should go and do some other type of work with your hands, don't work with your brain. You know what your grades say. And you know what everybody told us about grades today. And how to get better. So let's build up on things that Nikola said and Branislav said and many people others said today. Tell me, when did yours or children that you know who are in schools, when did your grades start getting down? Which grade? Fifth. Throughout, okay, for some, it happens. But throughout the world, wherever we ask this question, the answer is always the same. 5th or 6th grade, somewhere there. Why? And the answer is here in the things some of the people already mentioned. So let's build upon it just a little bit. I'm the last one. I have as much time as I need. How do we learn? And many people discussed this today already. 3 major ways. Our senses. It's logical. It's not a mystery. Some scholars like to make it a mystery, but it's actually very simple. We learn visually, as it was mentioned today. We see things. We look at books. We look at graphs. We see people around us. We see occurrences that happen, and we make generalizations, and we learn that when the clouds come in and they're that sort of color and that sort of height, in about some time it's going to rain. It happened many times. I saw it. You heard that sentence so many times in your life. The second way to learn is auditory. It's very different from visual. We didn't mention a lot of it today. Visual thinking, visual learning is digital. It summarizes up absurd amount of information in just one picture. Just one picture of a process or over a factory line or something else can sum up the whole factory production for this product. Auditory, or let's say it here, auditory is linear. It has to come in order. If I scramble my words, you will not understand me. If I scramble my letters, you won't understand me. Letters come in sequence to make words. Words come in sequences to make sentences. Listening is linear. It's analog. It's like you have a tape, if some of you remember tapes. Those things we stored music before CDs and MP3s and stuff like that. It's like a tape. I have to go to the 5th song. I have to fast forward or rewind to find an answer. So imagine what happens if you have been listening or learning auditively, and then a teacher interrupts you with a question. And then you all remember the same thing. By the time you rewind or forward to the place where the answer is in your memory, usually they told me something like, Moracic, it's now time to go back to your seat because this is really not good enough. Again, with no instructions how to be better. And kinesthetic, learning with your body. That's what sports people do, proprioceptive memory. Tennis players stand in front of the wall practicing their forehand for hundreds and thousands of times without any purpose in sports apart from proprioceptive memory. Next time I'll be sliding on a court, falling down on my knees, and the ball is passing in the last point I want to win. My hand is going to do the forehand on its own, just like I did it thousands of times on a wall. That's why we do proprioceptive, kinesthetic learning. We learn to move. All of you are probably the best kinesthetic learners in the universe. You all learn to walk. It's an extremely complicated thing to do. Much more complicated than learning or physics or math or something like that. So where's the problem? All of us, most students, are encouraged to learn auditively. Remember your parents when you were little, learning how to speak. What did they encourage? When you pronounce right. When you say, Mama loves Tata. And they say, yeah, he told it so beautifully, he's so great. Nobody asked you, do you know what Mama is? Do you know what Daddy is? Do you know what Daddy loves Mommy, Mommy loves Daddy means? Have you got any conclusion from it? And then back in elementary school, do you remember reading for a mark, for a grade? So you stand up and you read, and what do they grade you on? How your flow was. Did you pronounce right? Not did you understand. Do you have that picture in your head? You just said it right. So throughout our lives, they encourage us to learn auditively, to read and then retell. It's analog. It needs sequence. It's easily broken in sequences. So it's not the best way to learn. On the other hand, look at the world around you. It was said today, it's the most common learning style, visual. All the billboards, all the internet, all the multimedia, everything you look around, it makes us more visual. Visual information is faster. Students report that they have a much more interesting time when they learn visually. You all know the saying, one picture is worth 1,000 words. In this case, one picture is worth 1,000 pictures. How many words? There's a strategy, and I'm going to finish in just like 30 seconds or so. We teach children to learn visually, not auditively, not to read and then realize that they haven't retained anything, and what do? You read again. Like that's going to help. It didn't work first time, but it might work the second time. So I read again, and at the end I understand I didn't retain anything yet again. So what do? I read again, but this time I change. I read more slowly. Sometimes it helps. Most of the times you get bored, you get frustrated, and you don't manage to retain anything. So we go to mind maps, visual learning, and stuff like that. Start learning, teaching your kids to visualize what they read. So if they're reading a battle from history, imagine one army, imagine a second army, go to the one army and shout at the other guys. Run with them, see them clashing, see one side who wins and why they win, because they have more army or they have a better strategy, whatever the election is. If you're teaching chemistry or learning chemistry, imagine that reaction. The oxygen and the hydrogen combining themselves into water and then dissipating again to vapor. Why not see all of the things that you're reading? So this is what we teach kids, and I give it to you as a small strategy. Teach your kids to do this. It's an excellent strategy to learn basic math facts visually, like the division table or multiplication tables or subtractions and additions. This one is for additions, or subtraction and multiplying and dividing. It works very simple. Stores absurd amount of information. 7 times 8, it's 56. 56 divided by 7 is 8. 56 divided by 8 is 7. It works all the way through. It stores about 6 or 8 basic math facts in one triangle. So get your kid to draw the triangle, to draw the 7, to draw the 8, to draw the 56, to draw the signs it uses, he or she uses, and then get them to read, do what they usually do, read, learn auditively, and show with their hand, 7 times 8 is 56. Have them repeat that for a few times. You will be amazed how the multiplication table becomes fun. Do you remember how you learned it? 4 times 5 is 20, 5 times 5 is 25, 5 times 6 is 30. That's how I did it. That's what they explained me. Just read it and memorize it. That's what I did. Same works for additions and subtractions. 9 plus 7 is 16, 16 minus 9 is 7, 16 minus 7 is 9. It works all ways. There's a great group of people doing this in Serbia with poems, teaching preschool kids to recite poems by drawing them, not by learning them in repetition. And finally, to conclude with the last thing, I want to return to Nikola. Why? Not just because he was one of the greatest scientists that ever lived, not just because he was, we like to say, ours. I suppose many other people like Croats and Americans like to say theirs. But for another thing, not so well known, but most of people know it. He was one of the greatest visual learners ever. That's how he learned. That's how he worked. Bunch of people a century ago came up to Nikola Tesla, gave him schemes for internal combustion engine. The thing you have in your cars today wasn't there 120 years ago. When they were making it, they didn't know how will it work. So they gave it to Nikola Tesla, and he looked at the blueprints. He visualized combining all the elements in his head and made an engine in his head. Today we would say hallucinated. And then made it run, made the time faster, sped it up, made it run for about 30 or so days, stopped it, dismantled it in his head, and told them, this, and this part will wear down in a month. This part will be wear down for 1 millimeter. This part will be wear down for about 7 millimeters, and so on for each of the parts. So they did test him, and they took an engine, combined it, let it run for a month, dismantled it, and started measuring. How much did you think Nikola Tesla was in error?
0.
It's not really 0, but it's about 1.6%. He was mistaken by 1.6%. Imagine if you go on and learn every kid you know or you have to learn visually from day one. How much faster will they learn? How much more fun it will be? I know the answer. I won't give it to you. Get the hell out and try it on your own. Thank you for sharing this time with me. It was a pleasure.